Hello, I'm Dee Wagner, and this is the effect of technology on the therapeutic relationship, attending to the digital dance. I'm a licensed professional counselor and also a board-certified dance therapist, a dance movement therapist. I've been practicing, seeing clients at the Link Counseling in Atlanta for the past 23 years. I thought I would let you know a little bit about how I know about the effect of technology on the body, on relationships in general, and on particular relationship. Recently, I did a presentation at the Expressive Therapies Summit in New York. And this slide that's showing here, it names that the topic is use technology to embody rather than allow it to disembody. And a picture of me, that's my hands. And you see from my phone that I am not really up on the very latest digital devices. I have lagged in my updates. And it wasn't conscious at the time, but now I am conscious of the fact that that has given me a kind of perspective, that I've watched people and their relationships with their devices and their relationships with each other using technology. And that's what we dance therapists do. We watch people move. This watching, this position of the witness, is actually a very important part of how to use technology in a healthy way. This watching is what happens in a mindfulness practice. There was an article in the New York Times last Sunday, and it was a kind of cheeky article about mindfulness and how it wasn't really that great being in the moment anyway. But the author who wrote it missed the most important part of a mindfulness practice, which isn't actually about being in the moment. It's about trying to be in the moment. It's about noticing when we're not in the moment and trying to come back to be in the moment. It's about connecting with ourselves, noticing when we have left that awareness and coming back to it. It is that ability to witness ourselves and our process, our experience, our bodies, that is what we're working on in a mindfulness practice. 6 years ago, I started online dating. Now, I'm a therapist, so I know that romance stirs up our attachment issues. But I was also very clear that this was bigger than that, and that it was related to the technology. I thought, as a dance therapist, I need exercises. This putting together the romance, which can be pretty intense, and the technology, this is more than I can handle just on my own. And I created an exercise. The first exercise I created was a chart for how I was feeling in my body at any given moment. Because we dance therapists know that to notice the body changes the body. So I created this chart where I would note, and I came up with very visceral words like jazzed up, and that was fine, but ants and pants, not so good. Or deer in headlights, really not good. Feet in cement, not good. And then I would just circle where I was on the chart before I got involved in any sort of technological encounter. And these exercises that I created became a book. Naked Online, a dozen ways to grow from internet dating. Naked Online because of how vulnerable we can feel with technology and also with romance. And then a dozen ways to grow from internet dating was about using this process that gets on our last nerve to improve system functioning and make the whole process more playful and mindful We joke about how we sneak the word Zen into the subtitle. Take an experience like romance, which already gets everybody feeling all vulnerable, all little kid stuff coming up. Add to it this technology stuff, and it's a great place. It's a great way to work with these exercises and help improve nervous system functioning. Just like what can happen through the use of technology in the therapeutic relationship. So in the time that I was working on this workbook, more and more I began to learn about Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory. Polyvagal theory is based on his study of the ventral vagal nerve. So he began to understand our biology, our anatomy, in a different way than we've ever understood it before. And it's a very helpful way to understand what's happening. It helps us understand that what we need in times like this is ways to keep it playful. And so that's why we keep it mindful. We joke about how we sneak the word Zen into the subtitle. Now, in the same time that I was working on the book and learning about polyvagal theory, we started to have the requirements to learn about telemental health. And I took Ray's course, which was a totally fabulous course. And before Ray's course, I tended to think where we were headed technologically was like it was portrayed in the first movie, The Matrix, that we were going to be disembodied pod dwellers, living our lives virtually. And then when I took Ray's course, I learned about ways that more and more technology mimics the body. And then I began to picture that where we're headed is actually more like that old TV show, The Bionic Man. So as I'm developing and learning all about the technology stuff and working on the workbook, I began to understand the importance of mindfulness. Like being mindful right now of what this has been like to connect up, then to have to stop and pause because we need to do the push record, and then we need to switch and have Ray be the person who's running the slides. How can we stay anchored in our bodies so we have that mindful awareness, that moment, so we can operate out of the most effective nervous system functioning? How can we notice when we're getting in our not so effective nervous system functioning and help ourselves and then our clients return to that more helpful, more better in a situation like this when technically no one is in life-threatening danger. But we might all start to feel like we are. Why do we? So those are the sorts of things we're going to cover today. When I made the book, when I started the exercise for myself, I knew I wanted to be able to encourage myself to draw as well as to write. Because drawing goes right to that primitive kid feelings, those just basic core animal sensations. And then when Ray and I started working on this course, we created a tool called the Gingerbread Person Drawing. So I want to encourage you to do this right now. If you have a paper, if you have a writing utensil, you draw a gingerbread cookie shape, a gingerbread person on the paper. And then this is a reminder to check in with your body. And when you check in with your body, notice what you're aware of. And then draw that on the gingerbread cookie drawing on the person there in the place you feel it, like in your leg, in your upper thigh. And then when you're coloring in, use the shape that you're coloring to try and put on the paper how it feels. Is it ziggity zaggity? Is it dot dot dot? Is it just solid, kind of tense? Is it? So begin to just play on your gingerbread person drawing. And we, in the online training, there's more ways to how to use the gingerbread person drawing. But for today's purposes, if it's just sitting there, periodically reminding you to check in with what you're noticing, how you're feeling in your body, you can doodle on it, you can draw on it, you can use it as a way to bring yourself to mindfulness moments. So this mindfulness, being just a little bit removed and paying attention, we develop the capacity to have that kind of mindful, that kind of self-witnessing in relationship. So the therapeutic relationship is an opportunity to repair any ways that our client didn't get all they need to have good functioning in their bodies, nervous system functioning, to have this moment of mindfulness. Because how we do all this, we connect with a significant person in our lives. And then there's going to be disconnections, just like we're going to leave the moment if we're watching. And then how do we repair these connections? So I have a fun slide, right, of just letting people see this beautiful bridge, this connection. Thinking about this bridging of energy. All relationships are dances. So eye contact, gesture, of course the verbal. It's like tossing a ball back and forth. In fact, when we're trained to do reflective listening, we're trained to catch the ball and then name what ball we think we caught. I caught a tennis ball. It looks to me like a tennis ball. Oh, darn, I was trying to throw you a basketball. Well, throw it again. Let me see if I can catch it better. Let me see if I can see what it is, if I can feel what it is you've thrown my way. The tossing of energy back and forth can be very fast, like a ping pong back and forth, or even like a pinball, where it's bouncing off the bumper so fast. Can we as therapists pay attention to when we are connected with our clients, when that connection has been broken, and then how to reconnect? That's the dance that helps us feel safe enough in the world that we can have those mindfulness moments where we witness things about ourselves, like our connection to the moment. So technology is a great way right now, the way we have things, technology, to do that. Because just like happened today, you make a technological connection, and then if it doesn't go terribly well, it's a great therapeutic time to process. What was that like for you? I felt kind of anxious. Here I am. I don't know how it was for Ray. Here he is, the person hosting the event, and, something goes wrong technologically. It's a great opportunity to process this material about connection and disconnection and connection repair. Another thing about technology and the therapeutic relationship and in general is being mindful of different ways to connect. So sometimes connection can feel like an umbilical cord connection, like we're plugging right in to that source of aliveness that if it's broken, we die. And technically, if the umbilical cord is broken, we have to figure out how to live in life outside the womb. So paying attention to different ways to connect through technology. If we're in person, if we even are doing like we're doing now, if we've got video conferencing, so if it's real time or if it's slower, texting, emailing, that gives us all the opportunity to slow things way down. I'll toss you the ball, you'll catch it, and you can sit with it however long you want to before it feels right to toss it back. And we can discuss that. We can attend to it. We as therapists can note it if we think to note it. When we're doing phone sessions, there's just the voice. Until all the technology has given us so many options, I don't know if we've really paid that much attention. When you're doing a phone session, it would be like having your client close their eyes in your office and only take in your voice. It's the same for us. It'd be like sitting in our office with our eyes closed, just doing the voice. And as you picture doing that, as you picture sitting in your office with eyes closed, just the voice, you can begin to see how much that opens the possibility for hypnosis work. If you do a lot of telephone sessions, it's useful to go get some training in hypnosis. Even if you never want to do hypnosis, it's important to be conscious that that is the setup for a phone session, so that you're not unconsciously doing something ill-advised. If we're doing video conferencing like we're doing now, you've got the real time, you've got the verbal, you've got the visual. But there are two very important things you don't have. One is smell. As animals, smell is a real way that we tell if we're safe or not. Does anything smell funny? We even use that expression, something smells funny. So it's important to be mindful of the fact that when we're doing video conferencing, our clients don't have smell. And then there's also no potential for touch. Now that can be great if you've got a client who's been violated physically and the screen keeps their energy sphere clear of any potential touch from you. It can also stir up hungers for touch. The fact that there's no way you could give me a hug if I were sad, or hold my hand, or put a hand on my shoulder that was encouraging. And again, being mindful, us as therapists, having an awareness, a witnessing of what's happening, and knowing those possibilities might encourage us to think of something like suggesting our client wrap up in a blanket around their shoulders or hug a pillow. So this kind of mindfulness helps us know what to look for. Technology offers us a constant flow of sensation. There's flashes of things and dings that are reminding us there are things we could attend to. There's a flow of potential information and potential connection. So if our clients aren't very good at managing sensation, they may have what seems just like this picture, a kind of technology connection that feels like an umbilical cord. Now we're going to switch to the slide about polyvagal theory. So in the online course, you learn more about polyvagal theory, but simply here notice, polyvagal theory teaches us that we have two different kinds of nervous system functioning. One for when we feel safe, and another for when we feel like we're in life-threatening danger. So if somebody's got this umbilical cord connection, it's very possible that disconnecting feels like life-threatening danger. Most of us know that if we get in life-threatening danger, our body shoots off a bunch of adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, and we go into fight-flight, like you can see on the really wired figure at the top. And some people have that kind of relationship with technology. If there's no clear predator to fight, no clear path to use to flee, we go into what's called shutdown. And you can see that in technology in terms of that tuned out, that kind of binge watching where I just keep stuffing more and more in. And how do I do that? Well, I leave my body. I'm not present. I become the disembodied pod dweller living virtually. When we feel in life-threatening danger, we bounce back and forth like the arrow between the fight, flight, and the shutdown. We can feel anxious if we wake up and, oh my gosh, I've just spent the whole day binge watching. But then this anxiety, we feel there's no clear predator, there's no clear path to flee, so we go back down into the shutdown. When we feel safe, we are in our social engagement system. We step down from the fight-flight. Ideally, with technology, we stay in our social engagement system. Ideally, within our relationships, we stay in our social engagement systems, because that's the nervous system functioning, that's ventral vagal nerve functioning, that happens when we feel safe. So safety is a big piece of our work as therapists. How do we offer the kind of interaction, the kind of dance that helps build this mindfulness place that happens when we're in our social engagement system? Now, it's cool as therapists to note that the polyvagal theory, like you see here, mirrors attachment theory. In attachment theory, we know, and again, this is simplifying it, and we say more in the online course, but simply, you're either in the biology that's there for when you feel safe, you're securely attached, or you're insecurely attached. How does a person get securely attached? It's relational, and this is the path, this is the dance. I call it the circles of support. So the first circle of support is the womb. And then what I call the pouch, which is the arms, the gaze, the vocal patterning, the bounce, rock, sway, that is ideally the birth mother's body, because that's the one we are programmed through smell to reconnect to. But if it's some other being that can find the right amount of pressure in the holding, gaze, vocal patterning, bounce, rock, that calms our nervous system, then we can move into the third circle of support, where we crawl away. We go out and we come, you can see it in a baby that crawls away or toddles away, and they're exploring their world, and all of a sudden you just see the circle, the bubble pop, and they got to come back and recharge. And then they do this moving away and coming back. Once you got that, and that's pretty good, and you feel pretty secure, you can go far enough away that all you need is some watch. Watch this. Watch dad, watch mom, watch. Just some sense of being attended to. And then finally, if all this goes well, the final circle support is self-supported, and that's your inner witness. That's the ability to take that mindfulness moment where a more observant you notices what's happening in the body, notices what's happening with the animal self. So, if we have clients that are more in that umbilical cord connection, it's hard for them, they're not yet into number 3 circle. It's hard for them to go away and still feel safe. When they disconnect, they look like that little toddler with the bubble popped. This feels life-threatening. I'm feeling fight-flight. Maybe I bounce back and forth between fight-flight and shutdown. So for us to stay mindful and pay attention to where our clients are and process the connections and disconnections that happen with technology, we are more and more moving our clients into this witness way of being. And we call that not the umbilical cord connection, but the viewing window, which is pictured in this last slide. We're able to have the sensations of technology at arm's length. We're able to access it with the tip of our finger, but we have that space between us and it, so that we can take note of what's happening in our body. We can pay attention to when we feel full of sensation and it's time to power down and rest. Our bodies are not made for constant input of sensation if we stay home in them. Our bodies are made to take in sensation and then separate, digest, process, hang on to what's useful and let go of what's not. And then do another session of taking in information. We are advised, if you read information about use of technology, to disconnect periodically, but that can be hard for us and hard for our clients.